Happy Thursday, everyone. How are you guys doing? Welcome to another Forever Friends Academy episode with Sharla Kornegay, aka Sharla K. How are you guys doing? It is lovely, as always, to be on here with you guys for yet another time, right? Hopefully, you guys have been staying. Well, depending on where you live, where I live, there is a heat advisory right now. We are getting full throttle summer weather, which I'm not complaining about, y'all, because where I live, we can tend to stay in the cold, cool weather for a while. So I have been welcoming it, but hopefully, wherever you are, if you are in one of the states where they do have a heat advisory, hopefully you're staying cool somewhere inside or maybe in a pool, finding some way to stay hydrated, stay cool, etc. But let me introduce myself for anyone new who might be checking out tonight's episode. Again, my name is Sharla Kornegay. I am an author, a recording artist, founder of Interact Coaching, as well as Forever Friends Academy, which is my online subscription-based membership group where we do group coaching about relationships. And my goal in doing these lives, my goal in the private coaching that I do for individuals as well as couples, is to help people weed out all the lazy loving in their relationships, right? We can get lazy when it comes to loving to our fullest capacity, whether that is putting that love within ourselves so that we can go ourselves, so that we can boldly go out into the world being all that God has called us to be and purposed us to be, or right, being able to extend it out to someone else, which that whole process is interconnected, right? The more that you are able to fully be all who God has called you to be and fully embrace that love, then it becomes, more easier to extend it to someone else because you can't give what you don't have, right? So that's my goal and the reason why I stepped into the industry of coaching, relationship coaching specifically, but it does go into life coaching because relationships are at the core of every area of our life. So oftentimes some of the issues or challenges we face in that area are often reflected in so many other areas of our life. So I'm hoping that as we have these conversations, as I do my private coaching with my clientele, my goal is to offer understanding of fundamental principles that they can use to guide their relationships and really form the foundation of their relationship so that they can withstand the test of time and change that will most definitely come to challenge our relationships as well as to transform us and cause us to grow into better versions of ourselves. So hopefully that's what you'll find tonight. And feel free, if you stop by and you like anything that you hear, to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is titled the same, Forever Friends Academy. That is where all of my live episodes will be, full episodes, and you'll get a notification whenever I'm on. All right, so that is the coaching end. I'm also a recording and a performing artist. I do live performances. I record original music. On stage, I go by Sharla K. Feel free to Google my name or go on whatever your music platform of choice is to listen to the music that you choose to listen to and peruse my catalog. And hopefully you'll find something you like there. I'm all about love and inspiration, even in my songs. You'll find it there. And I love to write anthems, positive, empowering anthems that, I guess if you're working out, if you have a goal, then maybe I'm the artist that you can listen to. And as well as, of course, some love songs for those people who I really want to encourage and inspire people to believe in love again. I feel like so many people, especially in modern day culture, has lost their, ability really, or have maybe become pessimistic, and oftentimes when I talk to people, they're like, not pessimistic, but realistic, right, about the potential of maybe finding someone who they feel that they can spend their lifetime with and actually, right, see it all the way through the course of all the changes that both of them will go through in the relationship. So I like to write songs that inspire people to still know that it's possible, and that don't lose faith, right? Don't let anything in life that comes your way make you lose faith and hope in something that you, well, innately are going to kind of yearn for, because as people, we long for connection and to have authentic relationships with people. So, to me, if those are things that, you know, can give us a lot of meaning in life, meaningfulness, and enrich our life, then I don't think you should lose faith in it. So that's enough about that. But that's what you can kind of look forward to if you decide to, look into my music. And tonight we are going to be talking about the difference between kind and nice. I just had a group session with my private group coaching yesterday. And when I tell you, it was a really good session. And I could tell from the silence at the end of our session that I was like, okay, I need to bring this to my live audience when I go live, just to get your thoughts and feedback. And it, it's such a, I think, depending on where you are, and maybe if you've never even had this conversation before, what I found with some of the members in my group coaching is that it took like a rewiring of what they considered nice to be and what they considered kind to be. And a lot of people tend to use those, synonyms interchangeably and think they are just the same, and they're not. They're different. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. I have some videos that I want to show you guys, but before I get into the video, I'll do a little review and recap just to see if I can get some more of you in here with me before I put out the question for tonight as well as the quote for tonight. So last live episode that I did was interesting. I definitely went, I know, and Tyler Perry must be like, this lady just keep on saying my name. Because I tend to, whenever I feel like I've brought and introduced a very, like, either messy or scandalous relationship scenario, I'm always like, okay, this is very Tyler Perry-ish. So no shade to use Tyler Perry, I guess that's just what I think about. Well, nonetheless, we had a Sunday relationship scenario. You guys know, for those of you who have tuned into me before, you know that on Sundays I do something that I call Relationship Sunday Scenarios, where I come up with scenarios really just off the top of my head, unless I've come across something and I'm like, oh, that'd be good, I'll just use that. It's current day, talk, and it's trending right now, etc. Or maybe it's just something interesting that I came across. So sometimes I'll introduce that. But the one that I came up with last live podcast was basically a couple who recently got married. And before they got married, they were very excited to get married because they were very excited about starting their family. And they both talked about it and discussed that when they, when they got married, that they were going to have 6 children. However, they have 3 now, but the wife, would have like medical complications with like each child that she gave birth to. So she was medically advised to basically not to have any more, because they didn't want to risk her life as well as, of course, the child's life. And, of course, the husband was like, sure, absolutely. I want to make sure my wife is safe no matter what. It's okay. But as time went on, he basically told her that he could not let go of basically wanting to have more legacy. And so what he proposed to her was that he loves her. He does not want to he's not by any means at all going to step out of their marriage, but he would like to become a sperm donor, right? And that way he feels like he can procreate and have some more people who would be, children really, that would grow up to be people who would become a part of his legacy. And he felt like, no foul, no harm. His legacy continues. And he also told her that he wanted to be the type of donor where the child, at least 10 of them, could find him and connect with him when they became of age. For her, that that was like a curveball thrown to her, and she just was like, I don't know if I feel comfortable with this. I can't wrap my head around it. I get it that you want to still have your legacy, but I don't know how this will affect our family. And even though, I mean, it would allow for you to create more legacy, but what happens to these children? Like, we don't know what's happening to them, and you won't be there to father them like you're fathering our children. So that was the little messy Sunday scenario that I brought up. And I think, there was a participant on, her name was Emily, and I loved what she said when she came in, because my question to everyone usually when I do the scenarios is, whose side are you on? Are you on the side of the husband? Do you think it's no harm, no foul? He can just continue his legacy. He doesn't have to step out on his marriage, and he can still feel fulfilled in that way. Or do you agree with the wife that it's not that just black and white? It's going to cause a lot of more harm, because if you don't know what's happening to these children, because you are just being a donor and you're not necessarily going to father them, God forbid if something happened to the mothers, what we don't know, and we don't know how that's going to disturb our family. So she came in and she said that, if he can handle the repercussions that come with it, him wanting to be, right, a sperm donor, and not know what's going to actually happen to these children, then go right ahead. But she said on a spiritual level and on a moral level, then, it would be better for him to adopt. So I thought that was a really good answer and resolution to that, right? Of course, those children wouldn't be, right, biologically his, but I thought it was great. I introduced it on Father's Day. And for me, I'm a person who grew up. My father passed away when I was young, when I was 7 years old. And thank God for the father figures who weren't my biological father, but they stepped in and gave me guidance, gave me direction, and helped me to become the woman that I am today. So I loved her answer. So that's what we were talking about last episode. And hey, it's another one, Sparks. How are you? You really didn't miss much. I was just recapping the conversation and the scenario that I introduced on Sunday. So you really didn't miss much. So since I have you in the building, I will put out the question and the quote for tonight. And as always, you guys let me know, one, if you think the quote has some truthfulness in it. Do you agree with it? And then I'll put out the question for tonight. So tonight's quote is, the world teaches men to be kind and women to be nice. I'll say it again. The quote for tonight's episode is, the world teaches men to be kind and women to be nice. And the question that goes along with that quote is, are you kind or nice in your relationships? Would you consider yourself to be, when you look at the relationships that you're currently navigating, or maybe if you can look back in the past and see certain patterns and behaviors that you have when you enter certain relationship dynamics, do you think you're a person who is kind or a person who is nice? Because that's what we're going to get into tonight. We're going to get into the difference between those two words. In society, we can tend to use them interchangeably. If you have come to any one of my podcasts before, you know that I love to study the etymology of words. I love to study the nuanced differences in words that we tend to kind of just blur together. I always like to say, I know they say the devil is in the details, but I completely disagree. I think God is all through and in the details, and is meticulous when he creates things. So I really do enjoy studying it. So I have an answer already right off the bat, okay? It's another one. Spark says, he is kind. Used to be a little of both. Nice. Okay. Hello, Lion of I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I want to say Judah because that's what's like roll off my tongue, but I don't think that's right. Lion of Yehuda. I don't know if I said that right. Please correct me. But nonetheless, thank you for joining my live stream. And I just popped out the question of the night. And the question of the night is, when you think about your relationships, would you consider yourself to be someone who is kind or nice? When you think about the way you navigate your relationships, do you think that you are someone who is kind or someone who is nice? And the quote for tonight is, again, the world teaches men how to be kind, or to be kind, and they teach women to be nice. Do you guys agree, disagree with that? Do you think there's some truthfulness in that quote? Let me know what your thoughts are. I have an answer already. One answer says kind. Used to be both, but a little bit of both. But he would say he is more kind now. Good day. I haven't seen you since Voicey. I know. I so miss Voicey. I really do. I miss all of the, I miss all of it. I miss everything about Voicey. Just the community. I would love, of course, working with all the different producers and seeing what different creativity, it brought out in me as a singer-songwriter. And definitely the support and all the beautiful feedback. I think that was one of the things that I really loved about Voice. I love to witness it. I would love to go on other people's pages and, leave them, authentic messages and how I experience their creativity. I think that's one of the biggest things that I miss about Boise. So I'm glad that I made the wave to at least experience some of it, right? So yeah, I do. I miss Boise a lot. But I'm glad you can pop in with me. All right. Hey, Diamond Love. Thank you always for, well, you don't always, but every time you graciously pop in, I truly do appreciate it. I appreciate it. And you're the only woman in here right now that I know. So I want to pose the question and the quote for you tonight because I'm curious to see, as a woman, if you agree or disagree. The quote that I put out for tonight, it was, the world teaches men to be kind and women to be nice. The world teaches men to be kind and women to be nice. Do you think that's a truthful statement? And the question that I put out is, when you think about your relationships, are you someone who is kind or are you someone who is nice? So I have an answer from It's Another One Sparks. And let me read that to you guys and see what he has said. Okay. He says, as a man, being nice all the time doesn't work and somewhat makes you seem weak. Kindness is more of a structure and balance. Okay. Very nice answer. I agree with you in that. Do you think it's just for men? Or do you even think if a woman is nice all the time, do you think that people look at her as weak? I know that women, across majority, right? There's outliers, but women tend to be, right, a more agreeable than men. So he said both. Okay, yeah, I would agree with you with that. Yeah, I would agree with you for sure. So then with your answering that way, then do you think the quote that I said is truthful then? That the world teaches men to be kind and women to be nice? Or you're like, nah, not really. Okay, so he says both, but men are judged differently because of it. Yeah, right? Maybe the men are judged more harshly, right? If a woman's nice, you can kind of get the pass. But men, not so much, right? They're going to definitely judge him as being someone who is thought of being weak. Interesting. Hey, beautiful Chastity. Thank you for popping in with me, love. I just popped out the question and the quote for tonight. I don't know how long I have you, but feel free to join in the conversation. The question for tonight is, when you think about your relationships, are you someone who is kind or nice? When you think about your relationships and how you've navigated them, does not have to be only intimate relationships. It can be full scope dynamic, familial relationships, friendships. Do you think that you are a person who is kind or nice? And the quote for tonight is, the world teaches men to be kind and women to be nice. Do you agree with that quote? Do you say, no way? I don't agree with that at all because of whatever reasons. So let me know your thoughts. Thank you for those who have already let me know what your thoughts are. And oh, it's another one Spark said, and that's a sad part. He said he feels like it's sad that men are judged differently if they are considered to be nice, differently from a woman. Yeah, I guess you hear that. You think of the phrase, nice guys finish last, right? Yep. Definitely heard that one before. So, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I think, and especially in this culture today, I feel like there's the pendulum like just swings from one far off, right, part of the spectrum to another one. It's like this place where you have what it's another one Sparks is talking about, where if you're a nice guy, you're considered to be a simp, or you're considered to be, where women are not, right? Really attracted, or you're not appealing to them. At least that's what the narrative is going on right now, when the pendulum swings to one end of the spectrum. And then there's another end of the spectrum where, men need to be formidable, right, in life. They need to have a certain edge and, dare I say, danger, right, but not in a bad way. Like, a woman is going to look and to see if a man can protect her. That's what I mean. Like, for him to be formidable in that way, there has to be a sense, right, where he is going to be a threat to you if choose to hurt or harm the people that he loves, right? And that's not a bad thing. That's something that he needs for the world to see him as someone who is formidable. But you have this culture right now when you're talking about just regular, needed, necessary masculinity, where now that's deemed as kind of toxic, and that's, not true. It's necessary. So you have like these two far ends, that is not, really doesn't shape, those two narratives, right? Don't shape the perspective, or, as he says, the way that society can kind of judge men and put them in certain categories. It doesn't do any good. So I agree. I agree on that. So I'll answer some of the questions while I'll wait for any other people who want to answer it or tell me how they feel about the quote. So when I think about, am I kind or am I nice in my relationships? So I would definitely say kind. I have said in the past, I think on here, is that usually people mistake me for being nice because I'm very easygoing. I'm literally like water. Like, I just go with the flow. I don't really resist much, and that's just because I'm not a person who, there's people who are very particular about things and how they want things done, or, where they want to go, maybe if it's on a date or what they want to eat. I'm not, for those things that I don't feel like are essential, like core things in life, I am so easy going. Like, okay, where you want to go? Where do you want to go? You know what I mean? Like, what movie you want to see? I don't have many, unless it's like plantains or something, because I love plantains, right? If they're like my favorite food or something. But I am so easygoing. But people oftentimes will mistake that easygoingness for me being a nice person. And I'm not. I'm more kind than I am nice. And we're going to talk about it tonight, and the difference in it. And they usually find out that I'm more kind than I am nice when we have, either a very heart-to-heart conversation where I, truth is my language. So I will not, forsake, I guess, what the person expects for me to say. or maybe this is the best way to say it, I won't mince my words in that way. I'm going to say what is necessary in love and in truth, but I am going to say what's necessary for the best interest of the person, not necessarily to cater to their expectations or to play safe in the relationship. So that comes out in pretty much all my relationships. And I'm sure you guys probably get some of that when you come here, because I'm pretty direct when I speak, even on this podcast, about, certain beliefs that I have, or certain truths. I don't really back away from it. So in that way, I feel like I'm definitely kind. Like, I care more about expressing and exposing the truth than I do trying to, placate to emotions or maybe societal views, to play things safe in that way. I'm not afraid to create waves or ruffle feathers in that way. So I'll say that I'm kind in that way. So as far as the quote, I came up with a quote. That's a quote that came from me, from my, just in my research as I was planning to present this not only to my group coaching but to you guys. And then I also went to church with my husband and his father, my father-in-law, on Father's Day, and the Pastor Dave Crosby of Community Church, actually had a message about kindness and goodness, and I was floored and through the roof, kind of excited, because I was like, okay, for me, that was a sign. Okay, you're in the right direction. Charlie had in the right direction. And I just thought it was really nice to have a message about kindness on Father's Day. And the reason why I came up with that quote, that the world teaches men to be kind and teaches women to be nice, is because he said something during the message, and he said, kindness, especially as it relates to when you're thinking about God, or when you're thinking about in the biblical context, because he was talking about kindness and talking about the passage of the fruits of the Spirit. He said, when you think of God, when you think about Christ, he's 100% truth and he's 100% grace. And I really, really love that. Let me say it again. He said, when you think about Christ, he is 100% truth and 100% grace, and sometimes, you hear sayings like the truth is ugly, the truth hurts. There's so many, right? Kind of, I don't know if they're negative connotations, you would say, or if they're just factual, but it's phrased in a way where people might want to resist the truth if you hear it in that way, right? And it's only that way. And I think those phrases come about probably from many times of people seeing how people experienced when the truth was told to them. And depending on where they were, their positioning, how they either resisted or embraced it, right? And so terms like that might have come from people, either resisting it, or maybe the truth just shattering whatever false realities or false perceptions that they had. And my husband always says this quote that I absolutely love. I'm sure you guys have heard me say it over and over again on this podcast, where he says, the truth is hurts less when you're made of it. The truth hurts less when you're made of it. And I love that one more than the other ones, because at least it gives you a fair kind of even playing field. Like, okay, yeah, the truth could hurt, but it only hurts because maybe you haven't become best friends with the truth yet, right? When opportunities came and the truth came to you, kind of resisted more than you did embrace it. But if you're like BFFs, and best friends with the truth, then it's easy. It's kind of like water, or it's kind of like eating fruit or vegetables. That you feel the nutrients that comes with it, or you feel the sun ray and the sunlight, where it nurtures you and nurtures your soul, right? And helps you grow. So I love that. But the reason why I think the quote, specifically for men, is because to teach them how to be kind, because what I have noticed in relationships, just either examining the relationships or friend circles that men have, or even just seeing because I have a son, seeing my husband kind of cultivate, even at a young age, because he's only 8, cultivate manhood, in him, or nurture or plant seeds that, of course, will grow as he becomes a man. There are certain things where, man, he lets him have it. He lets him have the truth, and you can see, like, even if you have a group of men, and of course there are always outliers, but most of the times, whether you're listening to men talk in the barbershop, whether you're seeing them talk in a different, space, they can kind of offer each other. They can say the truth right out, like, to each other. And even if it's something that it feels like it hurts, and even if it gets like really intense, you literally will see them just like hash it out. And most of the times they'll just be right back at square one as friends again. Whereas I've seen it on the other end, majority of the times when it comes to like women, we'll have those. I don't even know if we'll have those authentic conversations. I have seen it where they will come together and we'll be afraid, right? We'll for the not wanting to hurt someone's feelings, right? And it's good in our head, right? It's a good justification, right? It's a good reasoning. I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. I don't want to, you don't want to, or if even if it's to just avoid conflict, we might not necessarily want to tell the full scope of the truth. And we might go back, right? Maybe to our partners and tell them, and so I think of it in that way, but I also think that when it comes to like society and the expectations that they have on men and manhood, right? It's kind of like everything you do here, you earn it, right? You earn the respect, or you climb your way up, and it's a lot of truth. It's heavy on the truth, right? They're not necessarily placating to that, man's emotions, or that young boy who's going to grow into a man, for however they feel, what they're going to need, the tools and the attitude and the mentality that they'll need to be equipped to go into the world, right? So it's heavy, I think, in let's put it like this, in the right environment, right? Around other men who hold that young boy who's growing into manhood in full accountability and is teaching him and training him in the right way. That's a lot of the mindset and the culture that he will be raised in. And sometimes that's not always, right, really given to women in that way, right? And don't get me wrong, there are different scenarios. And if there is a family that is holistically cultivating that girl who's going to be who's going to turn into a woman, then that's great. But outside of that, just in a overarching way, there's many, especially, forget it, if you're a woman who has a lot of outward beauty, you will find where I've even heard people say certain, I don't know if this is even a real quote, where they'll say women automatically are born with, right, value because of their beauty, where people will part ways with things for them. And so she doesn't necessarily have to earn it. It's just kind of giving to her. So there's a lot of grace there, I would say. I would term it in that way. There's a lot of grace, but sometimes the accountability piece is not always there, and especially if, as I was saying before, in the circles that we have, if we're afraid of telling the truth because we don't want to not be nice, right? We don't want to not be nice. We don't want to hurt anyone's ego, how they see themselves, how they feel about themselves. And when you have environments that are like that continually, it makes it very hard. Now, definitely, especially if you're getting into a relationship with the opposite sex and a man who is coming in with that dynamic that's heavy on, right, kindness and the truth kind of leading the way. it becomes like this dynamic where you're not certain, you can't really see eye to eye, because once the truth comes to her, it's going to be hard for her to kind of, take it in. You know what I mean? In that way. So those are some of the reasoning why I kind of came up with it in that type of context. So let me welcome Emily. How are you? Let me read. I believe it's another one. Sparks wrote something else that I missed. He said, nice people tend to conform in their thoughts. Absolutely. Beliefs and actions as a man detrimental. Absolutely. And I think that's not just for men. I think it's all around, and one of the things that kept on coming up in my group coaching session that I was on yesterday, it was like, and I'm gonna show you the same video that I showed in my group yesterday and hear your thoughts. But it was almost like when they saw the video that I'm gonna play for you guys, it was almost like they were just trying to kind of rewrite what the woman was saying, because they couldn't really connect that someone who is actually considered to be a nice person is someone who is actually someone who can be very self-centered, or who could be using the tactic of being nice just so that they can do what It's Another One Spark says, kind of conform to the environment or the things that are going around them just to stay safe, to play it safe, right? Or they can also do a nice action for their advantage, right? Whereas kindness, you're doing something without an expectation. You're doing something where it does not matter who's around you, right? So the person who's nice, it's more of an external motivation that they have, right? Whereas someone who's kind is more of an internal, mentality and attitude. And the only thing that they care about is the truth and doing what's right beyond anything else, right? More than the other person's emotions, right? So they're going to do what they feel like is best for the person's best interests. You're not going to do something because they feel like it will appease, your emotions or what you want out of them, right? So I'm going to read this next comment from It's Another One Sparks, and then I'm going to play the video for you guys, and you guys let me know what your thoughts are on the video. So he says, but spiritually as a man, we should be both kind and nice. That's in a spiritual realm. Well, here's the thing, and you guys know I love this. That's my whole really approach in coaching is let's extract the fundamental principles, which really are godly principles, right? That literally, if you go across, countries and things like that, you can see where this principle still stays true. So I will agree with you in that It's Another One Sparks. And I always say that there are certain things, right? When we create balance in life, it is not about trying to make sure every area of your life is you're giving the same percentage of energy and investment of your time and energy to it. That would drive us crazy. But it is actually prioritizing what is the most important, right? What is first things first. From a biblical context, seek ye the kingdom of heaven first, and all things that shall be added unto you. So for what you're saying, when we kind of pay attention, one, be able to distinguish the difference between being kind and being nice. When you understand that if you strive to be kind, nice comes along with it, right? Like kind encompasses the action of being nice. But you want to kind of have an aim, right, to stop being nice so you can be kind. Because the only way to really experience expressing true, authentic love and then receiving it as well is being able to have the mentality and the heart posture to to extend kindness, right? To yourself first, then let that flow out to others without having any expectation on them, right? Without it, or being able to say something truthful, even if you feel like it's going to maybe disturb or cause disruption in a friendship. You know, I always say friendships have to be tested. No matter what the friendship is, it has to be tested to see if it actually has the wherewithal and the fortitude to withstand, right? And there's no way to do that if you have two people in a relationship that are walking on eggshells and afraid to say have the necessary conversations and say the necessary truths to see if either of them can align with the truth, and either of them can become, or both of them together can become best friends with the truth, and then they can grow from there. So I agree with you. I think you do. It does, especially from a spirit-filled, Christ-centered point of view. Most definitely, kindness and right being nice can come together. But I think in proper order is the best way I can say it, right? In proper order, because a lot of times people will be nice, and you can be nice without being kind, but you cannot be kind without being nice. You know, if that makes any sense. So you want to do it in the proper order, because you can stay in a place in a cycle of being nice and cap there, because there aren't many opportunities where you are showing up truly, authentically, you know, being yourself and thinking more on a collective, in a collective way rather than a more self-centered type of selfish way. So I'm going to play the video. It's very short, and then come back to you guys and let me know what your thoughts. I have like 3 videos. We'll see if we get to all of them tonight, but this is the first one that I want to show you guys, and then let me know what your thoughts are when I come back. All right, so let's go.
Nice people, especially nice guys, are super narky, profoundly narcissistic. It's an instinct to self-preserve. And that's where, as a female, you can't be with a nice guy. Why? Because the nice guy's going to let the lion eat your throat for the sake of his own safety. It's, I need you to like me so that I'm safe. Niceness specifically is a behavior that is an adaptive strategy designed to keep you safe within the social stratosphere. So we're going to behave in this way that makes you like me so that I'm safe. That's nice. Kindness comes from a much more grounded, rooted place where you're able to actually practice love. Love is to take the other as a part of the self, period, the end. It's not all this fancy other stuff that we like to make love mean, like, oh, positive focus and appreciation and whatever else, right? I want the person. It's really just as simple. I take you as a part of me. Now, if somebody is able to do that with someone, they are taking the other person's best interest as a part of their own. Now, I'm able to act kind, because what I'm able to do, it's not about you liking me. It's about me acting in your best interests.
Okay, so that is the video, folks. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I think she, well, of course, it was just a little snippet that I took, but the little snippet that I took, she came in really right on it, right? Like, you don't want to date the nice guy. He's pretty narky, right? He's pretty much a narcissist, you know? And think, what about that metaphor that she gave, right? Or that example, like, if you're with the nice guy, you don't want to be with him because he's going to let the lion eat you just to protect his, you know, so that he remains safe. What do you guys think about that? Oh my goodness. And I think there's something that I really love that she said, and which was at the end of the video, where she said that basically love means that, right, you're a part of me, period, right? Where you are now a part of me. And I love that because, as I said before, I study the etymology of words, and even the service that I went to on Father's Day, the pastor was also breaking down, right, the etymology of kindness, or being kind. And I'm sure even when you look in the dictionary, you guys know that kind can mean, right, like kindred, we are of the same kind. So that's definitely one very instrumental difference between nice, right? People can be nice to each other, but they're not the same kindred, right? They don't possess the same character, the same nature, the same essence, etc. Right? But kind is one of the distinctive right characteristics and attributes of being kind versus being nice. And so when she said love is you taking right someone as a part of you, period, end of discussion, that's so true. I think when she said that, it made me think about definitely like marriage. And I said on my group coaching session yesterday, that's why a man taking a woman as his wife is one of the most kindest acts that he can do, because he's literally saying, my experience with you, I want to make you a part of me, right? I want to take you, whether you take my last name, I cover you, you come, you are part of me. And when you view somebody like that, oh my goodness, not only do you want to tell and make the truth be your language in the relationship, so that one, you can help them to be able to discern even when you're not with them, to make sure that they're safe, but as well as in moments, and life happens in relationships, right, where certain things happen, your partner might get sick, where you can extend a certain amount of compassion to them, because you don't look at them as something that is a totally different individual from you in that way, even though we know we have individuality. But it's like, if you hurt, I hurt, so I can't leave you bleeding out when I feel like you're going through something in life. I'm going to extend my strength, my faith, my grace, my mercy, to you, that I'm pulling from God the Father to give, to get, and to give to others. So I really love that she said that. I thought that was a really good perspective. So I have, oh my goodness, I am Sins. How are you, sir? Thank you for popping in with me. I so appreciate you. I don't know if you're still here, but I appreciate you popping in. I'm going to read some of the comments that are coming in. Lion of Yuhada said, great perspective. Okay, and in all caps, by the way. So he really liked the perspective. Emily said, I think this lady is correct, because anybody could be nice in order to lure you into toxic relationships. Absolutely. I'm always so impressed with Emily's answers, guys. She is such a mature young lady. She also says, whereas if somebody's kind, that person could date another person for their best interests. Absolutely, and I think that's why this conversation that we're having is so important, because I'm telling you, like, and why I kind of created the quote that I created in the beginning, that the world teaches men to be kind and teaches women to be nice, because there is so much research that shows that so many women are unhappy, right? Whether it's in marriages and in their relationships. And I think a lot of the unhappiness is because a lot of them are being nice instead of kind in the relationships that they're in, right? And I said, just before playing the video, that kindness has to start with you. I wrote an article maybe about 5 years ago. It's on my site if you ever want to check it out. My site, the group membership that I do it through a wonderful platform called Buy Me a Coffee, where my memberships, levels are there. But I also have articles and free, like, snippets for people who aren't members, that you can kind of hear and see and read. And so anyway, the article was titled "A One-of-a-Kind Type of Love," right? Because I don't know if you ever heard that phrase before, but I've heard it, and I kind of spinned it off of just saying kindness, right? That we need to create an environment of kindness within our relationships. And, I always say, no one's going to leave this earth and not go through relationships. So I always say, if I'm God, which thank God I'm not. But if I was, I would put some of the most, precious gems, some of the most instrumental life lessons that we would all need to learn in that process, because no one can go through this life without going through it, right? Whether it's your relationship with your family, your relationship with your creator, your relationship with yourself, friendships, co-workers, everything. Relationships are the fundamental building blocks of our life. And so, the kindness has to start with you. And I think a lot of relationships fail because either people, maybe they were nice to each other, for a certain while in the relationship. And then, as with anything in time, right, that, we have to go, venture through deeper depths and higher heights. And as life happens and we have to weather through challenges, then kindness has to come into play, right? And because either they never were kind to each other, or maybe they stopped being kind to each other, then the relationship just, starts to deteriorate and then eventually fails. So I really wanted to of course, identify the difference between the words so that I can encourage people to create and establish an environment of kindness when it comes to your relationships, right? And just remember that I will never forget it when the pastor said, I said, that's so true. When he used Christ as the example, when he said his example of kindness, that he's 100% truth and 100% grace. And I think, for people who hear that, because you hear terms like the truth is ugly or the truth hurts and things like that, you would think like being 100% truth and 100% grace could be like opposing, factors or things that don't necessarily go together. But I think those two things are the perfect things to go together, because imagine you're in a relationship with someone who you say that you truly love, who you have deemed to be a part of you. And you say that because you love them so much that you will, one, practice making sure that whatever opportunity comes your way to be able to give them the truth or express the truth to them. Not only does that it does state that, one, you have faith within yourself to be able to, give the truth even when you're in the midst of that it could possibly cause disruptions in your relationship. But then it also extends faith to them that you believe that if you give them this truth, that they can have the aptitude and the capacity to embrace it and to let it transform them. And I think secondly, why it's important to be kind and to have the grace part of it is that while you're giving this 100% of truth, in the back of your mind, you should always kind of hear the truth that you are giving grace every day, right? That God is kind to you, He's gracious to you. So while you're giving this truth to this person that you love, you make it, your intention, and that you're going to wrap this truth in grace, so that when you are giving it to them, you're giving it to them in the spirit of truth. You are giving it to them, right, covered in love, so that when they experience it, it does what? At least you have given them the opportunity. You have crossed the bridge. You have extended the olive branch for them to be able to receive it in a way that it's not going to, if you got the 100% truth and there's no grace there or no love, then oh my gosh, what the message you are offering could do a lot more damage than good, right? And then if someone just thinks just grace, let me just, I'm not deserving of things, so let me just give to anybody and everybody what I can when they want. it to be given to them, you're going to run out of gas very fast, right? And that's one of the things that is different between someone who's nice versus someone who's kind. Someone who's kind can say no because they can assess their capacity. They can say, right now, no, this is kind of the boundary that I have to create because I can't do this right now, or this would not be a fruitful kind of engagement for me to engage in. Whereas someone who's nice, it's very hard for them to say no. They say yes to almost everything because they don't want to be unliked. They want to be likable, right? So they want to do what people expect for them to do. And so that the validation that they seek is right from other people, or you know what I mean. It's they're looking for outward validation rather than it coming from within. So, oh my goodness, Queen, how are you, beautiful? Thank you for popping in. Thank you for popping in. I know you are like Emily. When you guys pop in, you always give such great answers. I've been on for a while, so you did miss some stuff, but I will pop out the quote that I put out for this podcast and the question just to see what your thoughts are. The quote is the world teaches men to be kind and women to be nice. And the question that I put out tonight is, when you think about your relationships, do you think that you are a person who is kind or is nice? We have been talking about the difference between those two words and why it's important to establish a relationship of environment in your relationship of kindness. Yeah. So while those of you who just popped in are hopefully pondering on the quote and the question, I'm going to play the second video that I have for you guys. I came across a gentleman's page and I really loved his whole kind of summary of the difference between kind and nice. And so I wanted to present it to you guys. So I'm trying to stop myself from saying gonna. Like, you know how many videos I say that? I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to play that next video for you guys. And of course, let me know what your thoughts are on his whole synopsis of the difference between kind and nice. All right, I will be back after the video.
Being nice versus being kind. Now I get it, these two words sound very similar, but what if I told you there's a big difference between the two? And that's you're nice because it's necessary, but you're kind because of character. Now usually when you're nice, it's due to social obligation, to maintain the peace, or because you want something in return. Now there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a little nice from time to time, because we all do it. But because it ultimately refers to your behavior, it can still be a terrible person on the other side of it. And trust me, I know this because I live in Los Angeles. But you see, kindness is different because it's born from empathy, a genuine desire to help the people that are around you. And nobody can force you to do it. So think of it like this. You're in a conversation with someone who's nice and someone who's kind. The person that's nice says, I do right by you for me. But the person that's kind says, I do right by you from me. You feel me? Anyway, that's why I think it's important to know when you're
Wow, I loved his video. I had to show it to you guys when I came across. I thought it was like so simply stated, but he had so many different truths in there, in that little small snippet. I especially love how he came in and he said, you're nice because it's necessary, but you're kind because of character. I love that. And I definitely love the end when he said, the nice person will say, I'll do right by you, for me. Whereas the kind person will say, I'll do right by you from me. So I love that, and I think for many people, especially when I was on my group coaching session, like I said, they tried to kind of change the narrative that, no, this couldn't be a nice person, like a genuinely nice person is not someone who is a person who will say, I'll do right by you, you know what I mean? For me, it was like hard for them to wrap their head around, or challenging, I would say, which that's natural, especially if we're not having conversations, right? Of where we're doing what we're doing tonight, where we're looking at different videos, we're looking at different angles, and looking at the nuanced differences between those words, especially if you're living in a society that kind of just blur those things together. And who would ever say it's not good to be a nice person? Who would ever say that? But when you really think of it, it makes sense, because it's not that I think it's in the same way where I talk about selfishness a lot on this podcast. And I always say that, selfishness is not good. It's not what you hear oftentimes when it comes to coaches or therapists. They'll say you need to be selfish, and selfish is not a bad word. But I just honestly think when they say that, they're not really going into what it truly means to be selfish. And so now they're blurring self-care and self-love with selfishness. And those are two very different things. The moment you step out and do something that is principally necessary, right, to do for you to move in this world filled with the necessary energy, the capacity to love, the capacity to exercise trust and faith and things like that, you taking the time out to give to yourself in the proper ways is not a selfish thing. It is literally a selfless thing, because you're thinking collectively, because you have to do that to be able to pour, into other people. You have to be able to do that, because there are people who are, like we're talking about, who are nice, who run on fumes, but then it becomes self-centered in that way. Does it make sense? Or so, like, if someone says, I'm doing this and pouring back into myself, and then when they get all of that feeling, they don't, right, serve out to maybe their family or other places, then yeah, that's selfish, right? But if it is someone who's like a mother, a father, someone who clearly, I don't want to say clearly, but who has evidence in the fruit of their life that they are stewards, right? They have been entrusted to be stewards over, whether it's children, other people in their life, and those people who they serve, you can see the fruit in what they give them. When that person steps away to say, okay, I need to fill up, right? They are not just thinking about themselves. They are also understanding that principally, if I don't do this, I will experience a breakdown in my being somewhere, whether it's physical, whether it's mentally, emotionally. So I need to do this because principally I cannot pour, right, from my overflow if I don't do it. Right. So once you do that, that's a collective thing, and that's self-love. That's not selfishness. Now, if it's a taker and somebody who just wants to take, and they say it's quote unquote in the name of doing a selfish act and intertwine it with self-love, but you're going to see either the lack of fruit there from that person to know that that's the difference between someone doing it completely selfishly or understanding that, okay, no, this is a selfless act when I take time out for me, because there's no way for me to pour from an empty cup. There is a way, but I don't want to break down, because then it will cause, right, rippling negative effects to the people who I have been entrusted with either a part of the development of their life, their livelihood, or their lives, so they're functioning in a fundamental principle. So that's actually selfless, and that's more than kind of how it's put out, right, to people when they say, oh no, you need to be selfish. Self-care is selfish. No, it's actually a collective. They're thinking collectively. You're thinking collectively when you step out to say, I need to, because I'm assessing and I'm being wise to pay attention to myself, that I am running really low right now. So, and I'm supposed to be giving from overflow. I'm not supposed to be stop start, right? Like, imagine if your life is like a gas station, and every time you give out, right, and you wait too long to see that you're on E, so now you got to go back to the gas station and then pour out again. That's that's not really how, right? It's supposed to go when we're serving and giving to the people who we say that we love. It's supposed to have a wonderful friend. His name is George James, and I went to his wife's, she has like a mother-daughter group, wonderful group. And he did an example because he was talking to the mothers, and mothers, we are all, well, many of us are guilty of running on E and trying to serve everyone else and trying to pour from an empty cup. So he basically gave them example where he put the water in, and he said, this is what you kind of been doing. You've been putting the water in and then pouring it out, putting it in, pouring it out. When you're really supposed to serve in this way, right? You're supposed to pour the water, and the water's supposed to, right? He took a second container and then it started to overflow. Right? That's how it's supposed to, right? And so the difference, going back to what we're talking about today, the difference between being kind and nice is that the person who is kind, who is not afraid to be truthful, who gives without expectation, right? Who is giving because of their innate essence and the character that lives within them, they are pouring and serving, right, from overflow. Whereas for somebody who's nice, right, if they are someone who especially gets into the point of people pleasing or feeling like they have to do certain things based on other people's expectations because they need that outward validation, right, they are definitely going to get to E very quickly, right? And so even the giving that they're giving, because there is an undertone, right, of self-centeredness and selfishness in it, then, right, because when we serve, there is supposed to be a charge that you get, right? Especially if you're serving out of your God-given gifts, your God-given skill set, it charges you. There's so many of my friends and clients that I have, and they were like, Charlotte, I don't know how you do this, because I have a group. If you go on my site, Forever Friends Academy, I have a group that evolved out of my private coaching sessions where, I've turned into, I didn't even know it was going to happen, but basically we get up. It's a woman-only group where we get up and we work out, right? 4 to 5 days a week. Some are on different programs. Some do 15 minutes, some do 30, some do 45, all the way up until an hour, right? And basically, I'm their accountability partner. I call them in the mornings. We kind of work out a program and shape the routine that they're going to do. And, after a while, a good month or so doing it, they're like, Charlotte, I don't know how you do this. How do you do this? How do you do the coaching? They know I'm a performer. They know I'm a singer-songwriter. They know that I'm a mother. They know that I'm a wife. They know that I do these lives. And they're like, what is going on? Because you're waking up with me at like 5 a.m. in the morning, sometimes 4:30 a.m. in the morning. And like, come on, let's go. Right? And so they're looking at me like, what? But I tell them when you do things in the proper order and when you prioritize, and of course, God is my strength, right? You prioritize those things, and it does give you strength. It really does give you strength, and it equips you to be able to do those things. Now, is there room in my life where I feel like I can elevate it? Absolutely, every single day, but to be able to have the consistency and have the discipline to do that, it takes a certain characteristic, right, and character to do it. And so they see it. But I think that's one of the difference, right, between being kind and being nice, and how that can serve you. Because when you're giving without expectation, and I'll say one statement, and then I'll read some of the comments that are coming in, because I want to make sure I do that. On the church service that I was in on Sunday, the pastor said something to me that just completely resonated with me. He said, because on your character, whereas goodness is an external action, right? And so basically from your kindness, right, it then the goodness comes forward. And he said people who, exercise goodness, they don't compare like fairness in that way where it's like, okay, I did this, so I expect this back from you, right? They don't really waste their time beyond that because they lean on the end of generosity because they are constantly on overflow. Because when you are executing kindness and you know kindness comes from a place that I'm not seeking validation from you, I am just really trying to align with the truth and demonstrate that in my life, offer that to you, create opportunities where other people can also experience that, right? Then if I'm not doing that, then if I'm not doing that, but if I am functioning in that way, then I'm not expecting, right, whatever I was going to get for you from you to be the thing that charges me. I already have an unlimited source that's charging me to do what I do. So I'm not really expecting it from you because I know that if I sow goodness, I'm going to reap it in some area of my life. Even if it's not, right, I gave you 5 pieces of candy, you should give me 5 pieces back, right? Imagine living life like that. That's, and especially in relationships, intimate relationships like marriages, where it's not, like where you go to work, you work this amount of times, or hours, you can calculate what you're going to get back, right? I know what my reward is. Relationships, you can give and it not be equal all the time, right? Sometimes in a relationship, someone might be giving 85 while the other person is giving this much, not saying that it's always going to be like that. But what I'm saying is that seasons happen, and especially as we go through transitions of growth and we're learning and getting equipped to learn new things sometimes, right? And just kind of trying to learn how to walk in that stage, right? There is a space sometimes where that person is not doing what they used to do at the level that they used to do it. And oftentimes it's because, hopefully if it's a very healthy dynamic relationship, it's because the person is growing and going to another level. So if you leave space and that person learns how to walk and run at that stage, then you'll see them, the new things that they're equipped with, and then they can, right, kind of pour into the relationship in a different way. But it's not so easily quantifiable, in a relationship, and sometimes you'll give and sometimes it'll come in a different area, in a different way. So let me read some of these comments and let me say hi to, oh my goodness, Kelly Fisher. Oh my goodness, of the Matchmaking Duo. I don't know if you're still in here, but thank you for popping in, love. I absolutely love them. Check them out, guys. The Matchmaking Duo is their name on Instagram. But they're absolutely lovely. They're matchmakers, and I actually met them through my friend George James at a relationship coaching industry meeting, and we thankfully have stayed in contact. They're absolutely wonderful. Lion of Yehuda said egotistically, yes. And I think they said that when I was kind of breaking down the difference between selfishness and self-love and self-care, etc. Queen says, this is good information. I understand it when I go through this because I know how to communicate this to others around me, that I need a mental and spiritual break to fill up. Absolutely. Queen says, but when you are dealing with people who don't know how to communicate that to you, it can feel like they're being selfish and not protective of themselves and the people around them. Yeah. I could understand that. I could understand that. And, and I'm wondering, right, because, of course, I'm sure you guys have heard, right, being in a relationship with somebody who you feel is not, like, emotionally unavailable and things like that. That kind of, your comment made me think of that, Queen, because maybe some people who, where we might feel that they are presenting in that way to us, maybe it could be that they aren't, right? Either they don't know how, or how to, or what to do to fill up so that they can be available in that way. So I understand your statement, definitely. I totally understand it. Hey, Justin, how are you? So I've been on for a while, so you definitely missed, a good amount. But we are discussing the difference between being kind and being nice in relationships. And we've discussed so far that they are very different words. And even though we use them interchangeably, oftentimes they are very different. And we have learned that it is better to strive to be kind than to be nice. And the last video that I want to show you guys is she's a psychologist, and I kind of came across her video and I liked the way that she broke down, and I felt like she gave, a little bit more detail than the two shorts that I played for you guys. So I think that'll be the last video that I play for you guys. And in her video, she literally says, how I stopped being nice so I could, be kind, basically, and be able to experience love. Because in her synopsis, she's like, you literally have to stop being nice so that you can enter into kindness. And the only way to really truly experience love is to be kind. You really can't get there with just being nice. So I'll play that for you guys, and I think that'll be the last one I play, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on that one, and then we'll wrap it up. But great conversation so far, and I've had so many new faces come in, so I appreciate you guys coming in and stopping by for the live episode. So before I play this last video, if you are new and you've come across the live and you're liking what you're hearing, definitely go to my YouTube channel, Forever Friends Academy, of the same name as the live episodes, and definitely subscribe to the channel. The full live videos are always on only my YouTube channel. I only really put snippets on my IG and the other platforms. But if you want to be notified when I come on, I usually come on Thursday evenings and Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And definitely share if you like anything that was said in the conversation, if it resonates with you. And I would appreciate it, because there are not a lot of spaces that are having these conversations that really will equip people and give them, the good, adequate tools to be able to navigate their relationships. I think I had a podcast maybe not too long ago where I was reading a book. I finished it by Esther Perel, one of my, I admire her. I like her the way she practices, her approach to therapy. And so I was reading her book, Mating in Captivity, and she had stated in the book, and I can't remember if this was directly from her, because she has a lot of different quotes and statements from other therapists too. So I remember one of the statements was that people often think that it is easy to love and harder to find, right, the person that will, I guess, be the person for them to live out their life with. They'll think, is it easier to love, and just harder to find the person? But they won't ever really think that it might be just harder and challenging to love. And possibly you might have had, someone who could have very well have been a person that you could have grown with and, did this journey called life with, because in my book that I wrote, because I'm an author, I wrote two books, one titled Life in Color, and my last book was 7 Stages of Love and Relationships. And in that book, I say 100% of the problems in relationships is just because people have, a misinterpretation or a false understanding of love, and it's hard to kind of navigate the relationship space if with not having a proper understanding of that. And don't get me wrong, love is way too expansive for us to really feel like we ever will understand it in its totality. But I do believe there are certain, fundamental, rudimentary things that you can kind of take with you that will help you navigate relationships and be able to, express love and kindness in the relationship for it to thrive and grow. And one of them I always, the three that I wrote in my book is that if you know nothing else, know one, God is love. Two, love is not selfish. Three, and that love always comes to serve, right? Just those three little principles at a base level of going in will give you a good grounding, And it's not for you to hear and just be like, okay, God is love, It's like the conversation that we're having today. Okay, kind and nice are different, right? How are they different? What are some of the attributes and characteristics of a person who's kind? What's the characteristics of a person who's nice, right? So we're not just hearing it, but we're diving into it, right? We're digging, like just imagine it's a steak and we're using, the knife to kind of carve into it, and figure out what that is. So in that same way, when I say God is love, okay, what is the nature? What is the characteristic, of God? Like what, right? We're talking about one of it today. One of the characteristics is kindness, right? So when you kind of proceed with that, then it's like, okay, no matter what's going on and how I feel, the feeling is transient. It will pass. But if I am anchored in the truth, and if I'm anchored and open to understanding more truthful principles, then when I enter into my relationships or I'm going through a season where I'm weathering something, then, that anchor is going to hold me grounded. I'm going to be secure, and I can trust that I know that I'm going to grow either out and through this situation, or if I am aligned with someone who is, divinely ordered or God given to me, then we're going to be anchored in together and we're going to weather the storm. And the storm is going to be around us, but it's not going to be us going at each other. The conflict is going to stay around us. It's not going to be between us, right? And we're going to be rooted in faith together and allow that storm to pass. So let me play the last video and then we'll wrap it on up, folks, because I don't want to keep you guys too long. All right, so I'm going to play the last one from the breakdown with the psychologist, and then we'll wrap it up.
Today, I want to talk about why I stopped being nice so that I could be kind. There's a difference between being nice and being kind. Being nice is centered around how other people perceive us, what they need from us. Being kind is about being within our own integrity, being within our own boundaries. A nice person, they can't say no when they're asked to do something, even if they want to. And they feel extremely guilty if they ever need time or space for themselves. A nice person also thinks that it's their role to be liked by everyone. They have a habit of people pleasing. A nice person always worries about what other people are thinking, and they tend to over-explain themselves all the time. A nice person helps or is there for other people even if their health is at risk or even if it creates chaos in their own life. And they give their time, attention, and energy, usually out of fear or out of guilt. These traits are actually based in anxiety. When we're always worrying about what other people think of us, what they need from us, we're in a state of hyper-awareness or hyper-vigilance, and we end up betraying ourselves and our own needs. We overstep our limits, and we do things being afraid of hurting people, disappointing them, or letting them down. On the other hand, a kind person, they take the time to see if they have space to do something for someone else. And they let others around them know their boundaries so that other people know how to treat them. A kind person speaks up when they're uncomfortable, and they understand that they'll disappoint the people around them and that adults are capable of being disappointed. A kind person is there for other people, but not at the cost of their health or their mental wellness. They understand that adults are responsible for their own behavior. A kind person allows people to face the natural consequences of their actions, and they give their time, energy, and attention out of a genuine desire to connect or to support. Kind people know and honor their limits. They directly communicate their limits to others, which allows them to do things from an authentic space, understanding that it's okay and natural to disappoint others. Take some time to non-judgmentally observe yourself and your current habits so that you too can work on being kind instead of nice. When you're nice, you automatically say yes to things. When you're kind, you pause to see if you actually have the space to say yes. When you're nice, you betray yourself to please others. When you're kind, you honor your limits and your boundaries. When you're nice, you think everyone needs to like you. When you're kind, you know that it's impossible to please everyone around you. When you're nice, you think that other people are your responsibility. And when you're kind, you know that you are your own responsibility. When you're nice, you believe that feeling guilty means automatically that you've done something wrong. When you're kind, you understand that it's okay and natural to sometimes feel guilty. When you're nice, you drop everything for everyone, no matter what's going on with you. When you're kind, you practice self-care. You factor yourself in. And when you're nice, you believe that it's a badge of honor to put everyone else first. When you're kind, you know that if you continue to put everyone else first, you'll end up becoming resentful. I know that for women, this is especially hard because we are conditioned to believe that we need to put everyone else first, that it's a selfless thing to do, that it means that we're caring individuals. We have to understand that when we do that, we actually can't be there for other people. If we want to have healthy relationships and to show up for the people around us, we have to have limits and we have to take care of ourselves. If you're stuck being a nice person, like I was, I want to give you an affirmation or a mantra that you can say anytime that you feel guilty or you realize that you're doing something because you don't want to upset anyone or disappoint them. The affirmation is, adults are capable of being disappointed. I take care of me. I don't need to be everything to everyone. I want to hear from you. Are you a nice person or are you a kind person or maybe a blend of both? Leave it in the comments.
All right, so that is the last video for tonight, folks. Let me know. I liked her. As I said, I felt like she really kind of took her time to compare the two. And I liked some of the things that she brought up. And I also think her taking a moment out to highlight and speak specifically to women, because I have coached, I have spoken to many of friends, family members, women who, that's why I came up with the quote that I came up with tonight, that the world teaches men to be kind and women to be nice. And as I said before, that I have met, and there's a lot of research that shows that a lot of women tend to be unhappily either married or unhappy in their relationships. And I really do believe that it's because they're being nice and not kind. And first and foremost, not kind to theirself. It's what she said in the video about distinguishing the difference between a kind person and a nice person, and that the kind person knows that they have to practice self-care, that they're not thinking that they have to put everyone's needs before them, or be the mother to everyone in their life and in their relationship. It's not their job. But right, we as women, there are a lot of conversations where that is what is either being the message that's being conveyed or how it's being interpreted, right? And then she starts functioning like that in the relationship until she's exhausted and she's running on E. And most definitely, once she gets there, because the fundamental principle is that you have to fill up You have to fill up your tank and really fill it up to a point where you're overflowing to extend to all of the other areas in life that you want to give to properly. That bitterness and resentment is definitely going to come around the corner, and try to live and take over her being, And once you have bitterness and resentment there, oh my goodness, that is going to create a wall and a fort for kindness to not be able to come in, and we don't want that. The article that I wrote about having a one of a kind love, something she said in the video saying that, to lovingly and kindly assess yourself. That was one of the main themes and the core message that I put in that article was that, I used a quote that I really like. It says that kindness is the one type of action that the blind can see and the deaf can hear, right? Meaning just how universally impactful it is, that it can penetrate people. And I said in the article that, we have to start with ourselves, and you want to be kind and not have a judgment, like a final type of judgment about you, you want to be loving, in the process, loving to yourself in the process that you're in. But you don't want to be nice in the way that you're fearful from looking into the truth or hearing the truth about yourself, about others, because there's no way to grow from there, right? And I always say it in this podcast that there is no trust without truth, that trust is grounded and rooted in the truth. If there's no truth there, then you can't really have true trust. Because if that's the case, we can put our trust in our feelings. We could put our trust in all of these fleeting things. As my husband likes to say, misplaced faith is failure. And literally, you have to trust to be able to exercise your faith. Without trusting, there's no exercising the faith, right? So lovingly pay attention to yourself and see, right, where there are certain ways that you're functioning, like maybe after getting off this live with me, right? Maybe you're like, well, wow, I kind of know the difference between being kind and being nice now. And I recognize, man, I've been being nice. I've definitely been placating to a lot of people's emotions and doing things to get validation from people, doing things to just kind of create a false peace within myself, or for me. Because it's false if I'm not truly being authentic or showing up or are fearful of saying a truth because I think it's going to, cause a conflict or, whatever behaviors that you see within yourself, take a moment to lovingly pay attention to it. And then when you lovingly pay attention to it, okay, let me bring the truth there, right? So just imagine like your garden. And this is our process of pulling the weeds out. We're pulling the weeds out and we're tilling the land, right? So that now we're going to take the truth and then we're going to plant the seed of truth there, right? Like I don't need, if it is the fact that you want more validation from others, you plant the seed that I don't need to have validation from others. If I can kind of get a sense of security within myself and my innate value, and then I can, increase my value by discovering what my talents and my skill sets are and how I could be of value to the people in my life, right? We can sow that seed and that can grow. So do it in that way, to where, you're giving yourself 100% truth and 100% grace. So in that, just like I gave that example where if you're in a relationship and maybe you're a couple who's listening to this and you realize that you guys have been kind of placating to each other's emotions, walking on eggshells within the relationship, not really being 100% truthful to each other, and you want to get into a space where you can create an environment of kindness so that you can give opportunity for both of you to experience true love there, then what you can do is say, okay, we notice that we're doing this behavior. Let's be okay with having an honest conversation. And maybe you don't start with everything, right? Put blurting everything out there, but maybe we just take it step by step, you know, one maybe situation or issue at a time. But always keep in mind that whatever truth that it is that you want to express or you want to be exposed or reveal, wrap it in grace. And the way you can wrap it in grace is that whatever you're choosing to expose or tell to that other person in the back, well, no, let's not put it in the back of your mind. Let's put it in the forefront of your mind and on your heart in a very, outward way, that you understand that every day you're giving grace and kindness by God, right? Every day. And grace is giving some unmerited favor, something that you don't deserve is giving to you, right? And so you can give the truth with the understanding that, you know what, this relationship that we have is a gift. Some might even say it's miraculous. It really is, right? How many people sign up to do something that probably on paper 50% fail, but really it's like 85% for the people who, are miserably together or don't go full out with it, a divorce, because maybe it's cheaper to keep her, or maybe all the process of what I have to, or they have to stay because of certain things, you get my drift. If somebody said it was like an 85% chance you get killed if you went outside, or if you did this thing, you wouldn't do it because the chances are like way too high, right? But we love and we yearn for connection, and that's how much we, right, are like wired to express and reflect love to each other. So we do it anyway, so with that being said, understand that if you have the privilege to be in each other's space and to grow in life together, that it is a gift. Not only is it a gift, it's a miraculous gift. And if we're going to choose to do it, let's choose to do it in the most authentic way. Let's choose to do it with the grace that is extended to us every single day. Let's extend that grace to each other. So when I give you the truth and I'm telling you what I'm telling you because it just needs to be exposed, let's also accept the grace that comes with it, that we're existing in and we're living in, and experiencing things that maybe we don't necessarily deserve, as far, right? Because and I think I did a podcast about this. I'm not sure. There's a lot of episodes that I've done, but I don't know whether it's on live with you guys or just my private coaching session. But I remember saying, I think it was my private coaching session, where I told them that you can't even say the word deserve without saying the word serve in it, right? So when you deserve something, it's not just, okay, usually face value, like I'm here, so I just deserve it. It's because you served in a certain capacity, in a certain type of way. So people award you certain things because you have, but there are plenty of things in this life that we are granted with grace, that it's not because of our service and it's not because of our good-naturedness, that we have the things that we have. So I think when you have the conversation, whether it's with yourself internally, wanting to change certain habits or behaviorisms that you're realizing, or it's within the unit of a relationship, the dynamic of your relationship, be 100% truth and 100% grace, and I'll read, because I see some statements coming in, so I want to do that. I want to give you guys just like real quick, maybe 2 tips of what you can do now that we've kind of laid all this out. And you're like, I kind of already gave you one there with what I was saying, but we'll end off with that so that you can kind of feel like, okay, I'm kind of equipped. At least I have some kind of steps that I can take moving forward. All right, so Emily says, due to this video, I think it's better to be kind because you're treating people with decency and respect while respecting yourself. Absolutely, Emily, that is it. You got it. That's it. And Queen said she made a lot of valid points. She absolutely did. And I love the case that she made because I said early on, Queen, I don't think you were in the podcast at that time, but I had said to them that when I introduced this to my private group coaching, it was very hard at first, challenging at first, for people to kind of wrap around their heads that someone nice could be how can someone nice be selfish? How can someone nice be self-centered? And so it was like trying to rewrite the narrative, like, oh no, this is not somebody who's really nice. This is just somebody who's appearing to be nice to manipulate and, influence someone. It's like, because they felt like they're nice people, So it's like, how can I be put in that category? And I think a lot of the things that she placed and the points that she made clearly shows us how, right, someone who's nice gets into that type of rhythm. And that's what I mean. You think, like she said, you think it's a selfless type of thing when you're feeling like you're putting everyone before yourself. But while that person is doing it, whether it's be a woman or a man, there is a certain type of validation that they're getting out of, right, the way that they're serving. And if the expectations are removed, or the scenario or the situation changes, when someone who's nice, who doesn't know how to be kind, right, then their behavior is going to change based on, right, the people that they're engaging with and the scenario that they're in. Because they're going to base it on the expectations of the people rather than it's something being an internal compass. I like to say their spiritual DPS, guiding them to do the things that they're doing and teaching them how to serve authentically. They're looking for, the external validation. So there are plenty of mothers who feel like, okay, if I take care of my kids and I do this there's a validation in that. It's like, well, that's who I am. That's what I do. When that's not, first of all, that's not who you are. That is a position that you're in, right? A role that you have taken on. And it should not, like, just take over all of who you are in that, where your all of your validation comes from that role that you're in. We're so much more than the roles and the positions that we have. We start, like in my book, I say love is way more than, the roles and the positions that we hold. It's a character, it's a nature. And when we're kind, we serve in the nature and in the character of love, So Emily also said, whereas if you're nice, according to this lady, you're pleasing other people while your spirit is falling apart. Let me say, I don't always have to remind y'all, but Emily always inspires me to, to say this because she's a young lady, like she's young. Emily's a teen, a very mature teen. And I love when she comes on because, one, first of all, how many teenagers are listening to this, right? At this time of night, right? So that says a lot that she'll come on here and listen to me and the things that I talk about, but as well as just her feedback and her responses. And I love that because I'm a firm believer, and I've said it many times on my lives, that wisdom doesn't have an age, right? And that if you're open, God will most definitely pour into you the wisdom that he has, if that person is open, of course, with time, prayerfully, maturity comes to most of us. It's not always true. If you met a lot of older people who are stuck in certain behaviors, the age did not make it better. So we know that, and so she's just always has these most beautiful, like insightful responses. So I appreciate that. I want to read her her response again before we get off, because I think that pretty much, you know, is clear and sums it up when you're being nice. She said, whereas if you're nice, according to this lady, you're pleasing other people while your spirit is falling apart. And I think with that pleasing other people, because you're also pleasing yourself too, right? Because when you're doing these things, it offers a certain validation within you, you know. And sometimes, you know, it's interesting. You don't think that being nice is a hiding place, but in our conversation today, you can see that it is, because oftentimes you'll find people who are nice doing this, right, to please other people or find validation in the things, the nice actions that they do. Sometimes that person will do those things and they'll really hide and ignore other things that they have to really work on, you know, like being able to authentically be themselves and say the truth when it's necessary, to not be avoidant, you know, and avoid conflict, but, you know, directly go towards it, and let that build their esteem and their faith to be able to, you know, go and be able to handle and resolve conflict. So, yeah, you know, who would have thought, like, people pleasing, you know, and being nice could be a hiding place for someone. But clearly in this conversation, we have seen in many different summaries of the difference of being kind and nice, of how it can be, right? So Queen says, I think being nice the way these people are explaining it is like toxic positivity. Now that's a phrase. Toxic positivity, like a mask, right? Look at it. See how Queen always be on point, right? She didn't even know I was well, I don't know when she typed that, but I don't know if she heard me say that, but we're definitely in tune. So she said, it's like toxic positivity, like a mask to hide wrong motives and trick people into thinking someone has your best interest at heart, but they're really looking out for themselves. You know, it's interesting, Queen, a lot of people on my group coaching session also kind of was feeling that way, but I don't, especially in the way that she explained it, I don't think so. And I mean, I do think it's toxic positivity, but I don't think that it's just people who are like intentionally doing a nice act, but they really are trying to like manipulate and beguile you. When, at least when she did, especially when she highlighted women and mothers, I think that it is a toxic positivity, but someone can easily fall into it when they are taking on more than they need to, when they don't establish healthy boundaries for themselves and their lives, and you know, and aren't aware that in doing those things, that when they continue to either say yes to do certain things or avoid certain necessary conversations, that, you know, it's creating the toxic positivity that you're talking about. You know, I don't think that most people view that as selfishness, you know, and I can see where a lot of people, I will kid you not, how many times I've had sessions with either couples or maybe even mothers that are single mothers, and you know, they don't know, they're not seeing this part, they're not looking at all the things that they're doing, they're just looking at it as selfless. They're not looking at the part of it that's selfish. Or even if a person's in a relationship and there's no children and they're feeling like they're showing up in the relationship and they're doing things, they are feeling like they're showing up in a selfless way. They're not thinking that it's self-centered because they're still doing something to people please or to do something in hopes of getting a certain experience or for the relationship to work out and pan out in a way that they want. Right? That's a totally different thing from like, okay, I'm in this relationship and I want the truth, bottom line, to be exposed. Whether the truth is something that is, opposing to the vision that I would hope to see this relationship pan out to be, that's a totally different situation from even if I'm not feeling a certain way or dismissing, as I like to say, God's loving nudges of wisdom within them to then try to hold on to the vision that they have, that they're hoping to experience. It doesn't seem selfish, but it is, because the carrot on the stick is the narrative that they have put in place instead of the truth. And to me, that's what she was breaking down in that video, and how people who genuinely feel like I'm just a nice person, I don't know if you've ever come across someone who say, I'm a nice person, I'm a good person, how come this didn't work out for me, or how come the relationship didn't work out? And I think this is clearly one of the reasons where we can see why, because if you have two like nice people coming together and they're both being nice to each other, and there's a narrative that they have both agreed to put in place, rather than create opportunities and moments in the relationship where the truth can be revealed and the truth can be exposed, then yeah, that relationship is going to fail, because the authenticity is not there. And the narrative will fool them and make them think like you're being selfless. But no, there is a carrot at the end of that stick that's being dangled that you're hoping to, to be able to get. So kindness is, no, whatever the truth is, whatever is right, that is what I'm going to stand for. It's kind of like the phrase where if you don't stand for anything, right, you'll fall for everything. If you don't have your roots in the ground, based on the truth and God's love and his principles, and you are 10 toes down with that, then when there are false narratives and information and things or storms coming your way to try to uproot you, it won't, because the anchor will hold. But if you have been in the habit or have a pattern of dismissing the truth and putting the narrative either that you wish to have, or experience, then it's not going to have much weight, right? It's not going to, I guess it's like the scripture of being tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine, right? I think in the same way, that's like someone who's nice, that they are looking for the validation from others. It's hard for them to say no when necessary, when somebody wants them to do something and things like that. So yeah, they're everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Whereas someone who's kind is like, I will sacrifice this relationship. I will sacrifice whatever I need to and put it on the cutting board if it goes against what I know is fundamentally true, that I know God has set in stone and concrete. So if you stay there, then if it's a relationship you need to grow out of, you will most definitely grow out of it swiftly, because you're going to stay rooted in the truth, and you're going to keep your eyes open for the truth, and you're going to, embrace it when it comes. And if you need to grow out of it, you will. And if there are two people in a relationship who say, you can have your feelings, I can have my feelings, but at the end of the day, the truth voice will be the one that resonates loudest, right? And God's love will have the last say. God's love is not void of his truth. So as long as we stay, right, 10 toes down in that, then we are going to be good. We are going to grow through this. We're going to be even stronger when we get out. So I think I viewed it mostly like that. I'm sure there are people, like what you said, that, yeah, do use you know. They do play nice to influence people in a negative way, you know, and just get what they want. But I think what you present and state in that is all the more reason why we should have conversations like this where people know the difference between the nature of someone who's kind versus nice, right? So that they won't be beguiled by the person who's playing nice to now manipulate a situation, right? So yeah, so I totally get that. Queen also says, I don't think all people do it intentionally, but it can be learned behavior too. Absolutely. And yeah, that part as well. And oh my goodness, beautiful Andrea, how are you? Oh my goodness, and your beautiful family. I don't even know if you're still in here or when you came in here when I was talking about, oh my goodness, so good to see you. She's beautiful. Actress, singer, all kind of things. But please, I hope you guys are doing well and wonderful. Such a beautiful, talented family. And my voicey obsession, oh my goodness, I have some voicey folks in here with me. I just was telling someone that I totally miss voicey and all of you beautiful people. So I'm happy that I was able to stay in contact with some of you guys and you come and visit me every now and then on the live sessions and podcasts. But it's been honestly such a valuable conversation with you guys. Thank you for those of you who stayed on from the beginning to the end. All of, you know, the thoughtful responses that you guys gave me. And I pray, hopefully, that with this live video and the things that we were discussing, that we have a better understanding of the difference between when someone's kind versus them being nice. And I told you guys that before I get off, I want to give you, you know, maybe 2 tips on how you can, you know, strive to be kind if you feel like you've been being more nice, or if you feel like you're kind already. God knows we can all be kinder, right? Something the pastor said in the service that I went to on Father's Day, which I thought was so good. He said that, you know we need to be kind, but it's hard to be kind in a world that can be so unkind sometimes, right? And he said when he thinks of that, he thinks of this saying that the world does not need a piece of your mind, right? Because someone's unkind to you, they do something wrong to you. Well, I know me. First thing I want to do is a piece of my mind. I want to tell you off. I want to tell you how I feel, right? But he says, what I know is that the world does not need a piece of your mind. They need a piece of your heart. And I'll say that again. The world does not need a piece of your mind. They need a piece of your heart. And so definitely putting it in the context of all the things we've been talking about tonight, especially if you're in a intimate relationship sense, marriage, long-term relationship, but even, right, familial relationships, friendships, and most definitely, depending on where you work, your job or your employment, your profession, your professional space, think of that, right? To take a pause in a moment, and instead of giving that person a piece of your mind, take a moment and pause to see what really needs to be said, if anything needs to be said at all. And I think it definitely works, especially in the intimate relationships where we tend to be the most vulnerable, space and state. So, because, once you weaponize those words and you launch them, you can't ever take them back. You know what I mean? You can apologize for it, but you said what you said, it doesn't go back. And I know one time my husband said something to me and I was just like, oh my goodness. It made me scared straight. Oh Lord. I'm sorry guys. I'm getting tired, it's late. But it made me scared straight. Because he was like, when you say something, whether it be to me or somebody else, and you say it, you can apologize to me, but you already said it, and it's out there in the universe. You can't take the words that you say out there. I guess that's the Bible verse where God will judge every word, right, that comes out of your mouth. So I was just like, oh my God. I was like, that's true. Made me think a lot. Pause. Make sure I pause before, you know, saying what I think I want to say, because even though I can apologize to him, it's already been put out there, right? So that's one thing. Instead of automatically giving a piece of your mind, choose to give a piece of your heart, right? And then secondly, this I heard from one of my favorite, I don't even know what to call him. I think to just say he's a therapist would be, I don't know, not the proper way to encompass all that he is and all that he does. But I absolutely love him, and I listen to him, often when I get a chance. His name is Jordan Peterson. I'm sure you might have heard of him. He was a controversial character maybe about 2, 3, maybe during the pandemic. I don't know, but he might still be a controversial character depending on, he's not everybody's cup of tea, but I like him. And I was listening to one of his videos, and in his video, he was talking about authenticity, and he was stating that if you feel like you are being inauthentic, what you can do is to just stop talking. If you feel it in your body, because you can feel when you're being inauthentic and being dishonest within yourself and towards someone else. And so, if you sense it and you feel it in your body, the first thing you do is just be quiet. Do not say anything at all. You ever been in a conversation where if somebody said something to you and you might not agree, or, maybe whatever you're about to say, like you are not in harmony with each other, but you don't want to say something, it might not be necessary, like what you think you need to say. And so sometimes you'll just put a filler in there, and say something that is not necessarily, it's not the truth, but it was like a filler that you put in, an authentic filler that you put in for that moment, just to, I guess not allow the silent space. So instead of doing that, just stop, just be quiet, until there is something within you. Give a moment to see if there is an authentic way that you can express whatever you need to express with truth and with grace. So that's a way that you can do it. There's a scripture that I love in Proverbs. It says, even a foolish man is considered wise when he's silent. It's true. It's better to do that than to say something that is not true to yourself, just for the sake of filling air. You don't want to be a person that people feel like when they open up their mouth, they're just full of hot air. They're not saying things that are substantial or hold any weight or is transformative or have an intention with their communication. I was just talking to a client / who has grown to be like friend, family to me, and I was just giving her some advice to her. And and for many of us women, communication is like therapy. It's food for our emotions and our soul. And so when we're in a relationship dynamic where we feel like we're not getting that, it can feel, very jarring. It can be a daunting thing for a lot of women. And so one of the things I told her is that I gave her an analogy that, let's just say communication is the straw, and I don't know, you're drinking water or whatever juice you want to put in the imaginary scenario for the visual. We sometimes, right, and just for the sake, because of who I was talking to, I'll say we as women can focus on the straw so much. That's the medium of the communication. But if the communication medium is the straw, but then what you're trying to, right, when you're drinking something and you place your lips on the straw to get the water or the juice out, and there's like sediment in there, there's dirt, there's things that doesn't belong in there. Instead of just focusing on the fact that we just need to communicate, instead of just focusing so heavy on the medium, let's focus on what it is that you want. What kind of effect, what kind of impact do you want the communication to have, right? So we're having a conversation about kindness today. If in your heart you pray and you say, God, help me to be kind, help me to be kinder, help me to exemplify kindness in my heart towards my partner. If we set that as the goal, now that can be what we use as a guiding or a guidance for us, right? To be able to cultivate the proper communication that will yield, right? That will bear fruit of kindness in that direction. So I just told her kind of shift your processing and your outlook in that way, and you'll be surprised that when you do that, how the communication, when it happens, will, right, be impactful. It'll do what it is that it needs to do. It will provide proper connection. It will provide inspiration and encouragement, because if we don't do that and we just focus on the medium, which is we just need to communicate, what happens is if you don't have like a core essential character and nature of love guiding the communication, then our vices will come in, because during the communication, what's being communicated, you'll definitely take it personal. Or at least there'll be many more opportunities for you to take it personal of what's being communicated. You will have more opportunities where your communication can do the opposite. Instead of creating connection, it can create division because of things that you're saying, right? So basically, the devil has full room, right, and authority and a whole playground to play with what comes out of your tongue. Right? So yeah, we communicated. I, put my lip on the straw to drink the liquid that was there. But now I have not just taken in the water, but I've also taken in the dirt. And that's what happens. So I think that's also a way that we can, strive to be kind and exemplify kindness is, instead of just focusing on, the medium, the thing that you want, let's maybe lean into, okay, this is the character of what this looks like, and let that be the guiding, or the signpost that I use that helps me to articulate what it is that I want to convey to whoever it is, my loved one, or someone who I've met that I don't want to forsake my authenticity to try to develop or cultivate the friendship with them. So those are some tips just to, hopefully help you guys in, striving to be kind, so that you can experience love. And I think the last one that I'll leave with you guys is honestly what the pastor said, which is, it's hard to be kind, especially in a world of brokenness. And it is not something that we can do by ourselves. You really do need the Spirit of God to do it. So first things first, start off with just praying to be kind, and let some of the things and the attributes and the characteristics that we talked about today, like have God kind of, double down on it and give you even more clarity on it and proceed from there, and it's okay to be silent until you feel like you've developed the capacity, to be able to know, exemplify, and do and demonstrate. All right, but it's been great talking to you guys. Great conversation, as always, because you guys are amazing. So I always say you can be anywhere right now. I don't even know. Some of you guys are right. Oh, that's the beauty of the internet. You're all across the world. And so you could be anywhere with anyone else, but because you decided to take some time, give me some of the most precious currency in life, your time, your energy. I so appreciate you. I really do. I don't know you, but I love you. I so do, because you didn't have to be here. So the fact that you took time out, I really appreciate it. If you liked anything that you heard, if it resonated with you in any type of good way, kindly, just go to my Forever Friends Academy channel on YouTube. Just subscribe. It's free. It doesn't take much. If you liked anything, and share. Say, I came across this lady. She's an author. She's a singer. She's a relationship coach. She said some interesting things. I think you'd like it. She comes on every Thursday evening at 8 p.m. and Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check her out. Here's her video, and share the video, share the link. That's all I ask, if you can. But I appreciate you coming in, and I will be back Sunday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And like I said, you can go to my channel. There's a lot of other live videos where we talk about so many different topics of life and relationships, and so enjoy. And you can also enjoy my music. Check my music out to kind of dive into the other areas of my life. On stage, I go by Sharla K. That's SHARLAK, space K. And peruse my catalog. Hopefully you'll find something you like there. All right, beautiful people, good night. I think I need to read something. I want to do that before I get off. Queen says, I'm about to start driving and head home now. Okay, no problem, love. I'm leaving out. Love you and good seeing you again, sis. Oh, absolutely. Perfect timing because I'm getting off too, Queen. And Emily says, it's been great talking to you. Have a great night. Yes, great talking to all of you guys. Everyone, have a lovely night. Thank you. And as I always like to say, always remember to live, to love freely. Until next time. Bye.